Well, joining us now, Tim Dewey, Chief U.S. Economist with SGH Macro Advisors. Tim, welcome to the show. Great to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
Pause, skip, hawkish hold. It's really the summary of economic projections, the SEP and the dot plot, isn't it?
That's going to be a big part of how I think the Fed's going to want to signal that this is a skip and not a pause. If it's a skip, then the expectation is you're going to want to hike in July. And for that to happen, I mean, if you know you want to do that, it really needs to show up as a small increase in the dots, a 25 basis point increase in the SEP median.
Yeah, I mean, you're something of a Fed whisperer. What do you expect in terms of forecast, and what do you expect in terms of messaging from Powell this week?
Well, I think the forecast we generally supportive of future of another rate hike, in the sense that we should get a slight increase in the core CPI inflation to 3.8%. I expect that unemployment will be revised downward, the unemployment forecast, and the growth forecast should be revised upward. So I think the mix here is pointing toward another rate hike, and it's just an issue of strategy and timing for the Fed.
But, you know, the market is counting on a pause for now. When we look at the CPI report tomorrow, what has to be in it to give the Fed kind of that permission to pause that the market is expecting the Fed to get? Are there particular lines you're going to be looking at there?
Yeah, so the Fed, I think, has tried to set this up in such a way that the decision is kind of invariant to the data, that it's really not a data-driven outcome. The idea of a skip or a pause, or however we want to call it, is that you're giving time for the data to tell you a story. Do you need more rate hikes or not? Are you at sufficiently restrictive? So I think the Fed's been trying to say, look, we're moving toward a skip strategy. The data here is not as important for this meeting as we thought, and really what it's about. What tomorrow's CPI report is more about trying to say, okay, this is evidence that we're going to need to keep going in the future, that we're going to need to keep going in July. Now, I think if you get something that's...
Tim, what if it's a scary story that we start getting tomorrow? I mean, aren't there some numbers that could come in kind of hot, right? And then the Fed's got to hike sooner?
Yeah, I think that creates a problem for them, and that's going to create some optionality for the Hawks to move a little bit more aggressively. But, you know, those outside cases, you know, I think that's going to really make it hard for the Fed to skip. But I think they're really trying to skip here.